Recently, I found myself in Dubai at the Dubai Mall with a group of friends. We were wandering past the Jacob & Co boutique when two of them stopped to look at the window display and then decided to go inside. So I joined them. I think it was simply their sense of curiosity that drew them in, given the elaborate diamond-studded timepieces on display for sale at what I presume are fantastic prices. We didn't stay long and were back out within a minute or so. As we left the boutique, a couple of gentlemen struck up a conversation with one of my friends. They were asking about his interest in watches, and their conversation quickly revealed that they had a number of imitation watches in the shopping bags they were carrying. They were casually dressed in what appeared to be designer clothing, and their approach was respectful. One wore a hublot of some description, whilst the other was sporting a white ceramic Royal Oak perpetual calendar. I wasn't overly familiar with either of these watch variations, so I have no idea how good these imitation watches were relative to the genuine articles. My friend was interested in what Audemars Piguet offshore collection watches they might have, so I listened in and watched the discussion unfold. The lead gentleman mentioned that he had Patek watches of several kinds, so I asked him if he had an Aquanaut. Much like my friend, if I'm being perfectly frank, at this stage, I was just being a bit nosy. I don't own a Patek Philippe watch. However, if there ever was a Patek Philippe that I might acquire, it would almost certainly be the Aquanaut. The Aquanaut in stainless steel is a watch that I have long admired. It's absolutely gorgeous. However, I only got to hold one for the first time on New Year's Eve. That evening, I was completely wowed by my friend's Aquanaut. It was the perfect size for me, casual, yet at the same time very smart. He wore it beautifully with a DJ, and in spite of my high expectations, it was more stunning in hand and on wrist than I had anticipated, or ever gleaned from photographs and videos that I had seen. So, imagine my surprise as this gentleman handed me what looked like a Patek Philippe Aquanaut in stainless steel, standing there in the Dubai Mall. It was the exact same watch that I had held and briefly worn on my wrist some 10 weeks earlier. It looked sensational, and in hand, it felt identical to my friend's watch in terms of weight, size, the dial, the rear caseback, you name it. It was uncanny. All the same feelings and emotions that I experienced on New Year's Eve came flooding back. Honestly, I was mesmerized, and as I stood there, I felt my heart start to beat a little faster. This was incredible. I suspect that if you had looked me in the eyes at that moment, you would have seen my pupils rapidly dilating. I hadn't expected this. I'd seen fake watches of all kinds before, and they'd always been obviously fake in some way. There'd be some tiny detail that wasn't quite right, that would give lie to the pretense that the watch was what it purported to be. So I hadn't anticipated or expected the watch I was now holding to be nearly as good as it was, there and then in the moment. It appeared to be as real and as genuine a Patek Philippe Aquanaut as my friend's watch. I kept referring back to this video, which I took on New Year's Eve, and carefully scrutinized the watch in my hand alongside the video that I kept replaying on my phone. How could this imitation watch be so good? I was seriously impressed and began to feel like I didn't want to let go of this watch. So suddenly, now I felt there was a decision I had to make. What am I going to do? I forced myself to hand the watch back to one of the two gentlemen and let go. Then I looked up at my friend. He'd been in conversation with them and was tempted by one of the Hublot imitation watches. He recognized the look on my face and smiled. "I'm interested in this one," he said, "but first we need to negotiate." The lead gentleman told us that he'd sell me the Aquanaut watch for $800. He explained that there was no discount for buying two watches, which was something my friend had suggested. He stressed the Aquanaut was Swiss machined. He said it had a Swiss movement. They repeatedly referred to Swiss technology. I have no idea whether those statements were remotely true, but in reality, whether these were truisms or not, really didn't matter. My mind was elsewhere. I stood there, marveling at the prospect. This imitation watch was so good that I could buy it right now and feel as though I had the Patek Philippe Aquanaut experience for only $800, which is a fraction of the price I'd need to pay if I could ever find one of the genuine watches for sale. I repeatedly asked myself, does it matter that it's not an Aquanaut if it looks and feels like an Aquanaut? Here was a watch that seemingly works. It was ticking, but I can't speak for its accuracy. It certainly looks and feels great and is indistinguishable from the real thing. And whilst $800 is not G-Shock or Swatch money, it was certainly a lot cheaper than some of my other watch purchases. One such watch that sprung to mind was my William Wood red watch, which I bought having met Johnny Garrett, the brand owner, at a trade fair. I'd been impressed by him as an individual. He had drive, passion, and a personal brand story, and I was sufficiently influenced and persuaded to make my purchase. It was Johnny's brand story, told to me by the brand creator, that I think did it for me. Thereafter, having decided to make my purchase, my attentions then switched to which of the William Wood watches should I buy, and I remember asking Johnny which model was best associated with his brand. The red watch came back as the answer. So that was that, and that was my rationale for making the purchase. I didn't buy my red watch by William Wood for its movement, although I did opt for the more expensive version which housed a Swiss movement. I bought it to be used as a fun, holiday, knockabout watch, and because I liked what it told me. So I imagined for a moment that I might buy this fake Aquanaut and use it in perhaps the same way as I use the red watch. Would I use it as a fun, holiday, knockabout watch? Well, no. I wouldn't want to damage it or make it any less beautiful. That's not why I'd want to buy this imitation watch. Is it fun? Well, yes, it looks fun in one sense, but in another it looks pretty serious. It's purporting to be a Patek Philippe, and to people who know about watches, this is an icon. My William Wood red watch wouldn't ever attract attention in the same way that this imitation watch would. Watch nerds aside, nobody really knows what the William Wood red watch is. Consequently, I tend to get more questions about it from friends than I would if I were wearing a Rolex, for example. Nor does the red watch look particularly expensive, and relatively speaking, at £1,200 or so, it wasn't. You might hazard a guess at its value and be wildly out with your estimation, but even if you were, you'd know that the value of my William Wood red watch is certainly nowhere close to the Rolex or Patek League, nor is it ever likely to be mistaken as one of them. Even those with little or no knowledge of watches are still going to know that this watch is not in the Rolex Tudor or Omega category. And even if those with bad intentions did recognize the red watch as a William Wood, why would they take the risk or bother to rob me for a watch of this value? The quick and short answer is they wouldn't. However, the attentions of those same watch thieves and robbers would be drawn towards the imitation Aquanaut on my wrist. And for $800, I could make myself the center of unwanted attention and put myself in an unnecessary risk position. Hang on, is this really a good idea? By now, the price had fallen to $650, and the gentleman was insisting that that was his best price. I'm still circling around the matter at hand. I love the aesthetics and the way this watch looks. It feels like a Patek Aquanaut, and I love the Patek Aquanaut. Financially, I can forego spending tens of thousands of pounds and capture the essence of this watch for just $650. That's a good idea, right? Isn't it? Still unsure, I ask myself again why I'd buy this watch. Am I trying to impress anyone? Well, no. I don't consider myself the showy, show-off type. I'm not going to buy this watch to try and impress anyone. I'm not going to try and pretend that I own a Patek Philippe. Some of my friends know about my passion for watches. Many don't, and most won't even notice, let alone ask what's on my wrist. In fact, I wouldn't want anyone to know that my watch was fake. I don't want to associate myself with something that's inauthentic. That would be like living a lie. So that's not a reason to buy. Nor, as I say, do I wish to pretend that I own a Patek Philippe Aquanaut. I don't own one. If I were the proud owner of one, you might be amongst the first to know, but I'm not embarrassed to say that I don't own a Patek Philippe Aquanaut. For me, wearing watches is intensely personal. I wear watches for me, for my own enjoyment and satisfaction, and wearing this would bother me. I wouldn't enjoy wearing it. If you've watched or listened to my other videos, you'll know the importance of the brand and what it stands for to me. It's the reason I love Bremont as much as I do. And as explained, it's the reason why I bought my William Wood red watch. With the fake Aquanaut, there is no brand. It's an imitation. It's pretending. It's fake. It's the complete opposite of why I love watches. I reminded myself of the Saint watch that I bought a little while ago. It was called the Sant Black. This was back in October 2021. I liked the look of it and made the purchase. Thereafter, I discovered that Saint make watches that basically imitate other brands, and I realized that this watch was an imitation of a watch made by Unimatic. I haven't worn the watch since. In fact, I can't bring myself to look at it. So, this experience got me thinking more about me and who I am, what I stand for and represent. I consider myself to be a genuine person. I'm authentic. I'm the real me, and I live my life that way as best I can. I don't want anything in my life if, like me, it isn't genuine and authentic. Nor do I want anyone to think that there's anything fake or insincere about me. It cuts to the core of my own personal brand. It's about reputation. At the end of the day, our word and our reputation is all we really have. Why would I want to dilute that or risk it being diluted? If I bought this watch, I'd feel it would need to be accompanied by a disclaimer. This is a fake. I'd have to declare it. I'd have to tell people. It's not real. It wouldn't work. Am I overthinking this? Maybe I am. Please don't misunderstand. I came very close in the moment and almost made the purchase. I had the cash in my pocket, and initially it felt like there were good reasons to buy and that this was a good idea, not least because I'd just been offered a deal. I wasn't thinking about what would happen when it needed servicing. I wasn't thinking about guarantees or warranties. What I did think was, if I do buy this now, in a few moments' time, I'll be able to put it on my wrist and wear it. I'll remove my A. Lange & Söhne Odysseus, which is currently on my wrist, and put this fake watch on. Hang on. Wait a minute, what was that? I'd take off my Odysseus, which I proudly own, and is my all-time favourite Grail watch, and front row candidate for my one watch collection, to wear this imitation, this fake. How long would I wear the imitation watch for? Any novelty would be short-lived, and I suspect far shorter than the time it usually takes for me to swap out a new watch after an initial honeymoon period following purchase. When would I replace it with one of my genuine and authentic watches? How long would the novelty of wearing this watch last really? Ultimately, thought and rationale kicked in and overruled my spontaneous urge to splurge. At the root of it all is my knowledge of self. I wear watches for my own personal enjoyment, not for anyone else. A large part of my watch enthusiasm is my love of brands, and this watch wasn't what it purported to be. I'd always know that it was a fake, and that in itself would bother me every time I picked it up. I wouldn't enjoy that feeling, and I wouldn't like myself either. The reality is, beyond standing there in that mall, I wouldn't ever wear it.